Hi everybody, hope you are doing well, whether you're joining us in the morning, in the afternoon, or at night. Hope you are enjoying your day. If you're not in a comfortable seat, come and find one, either sitting with your shins crossed or up on your shins in a Virasana. Feel free to use any of your props to help you stay lifted if that assists your spine and your hips. Let's take a breath in. And a full breath out, maybe closing your eyes as you do so. Again, inhale and exhale. One more time, breathing in and fully breathing out. If you feel ready, let your hands float to your heart space on your next inhale. Continue to draw out the breath, making the inhale and the exhale a little bit longer and slower. Our yin poses are very interesting because we enjoy them for the added mobility and flexibility that they give us, but we also find them frustrating because we're sitting in stillness and we're uncomfortable and we can't really move away from our thoughts. But it really teaches us how to manage thoughts that we don't like, so that when they come up in, let's say, real life outside of our class, we are better prepared to manage them because we've already sat with them in our yin poses in our class. We've already figured out how to deal with discomfort. We've learned how to breathe through it. And that makes a really big difference when you're not doing yoga and things become uncomfortable. We start to realize that we don't have to handle them maybe in the ways that we used to. We don't have to keep the same old patterns that didn't lead us to a good place. We can actually change those habits and those patterns so that the thoughts work with us instead of against us. Again, take a breath in. Nice long breath out. Take a breath in. Take a normal breath in and an easy breath out. So let's let our eyes reopen. Our hands can come down from wherever they are. And we're going to start with our first pose in a heart bench. That is when the spine block is long across your back. Head block is on the high setting. Your shoulders will roll, right, away from the center. And the block should really come to like the base, like where your neck and your shoulders meet. So there's a little bit of space between that and the head block. It's not in the low back or the mid back, it's really at the low portion of your upper back. So it's supporting mostly your rib cage, you could see right there, versus being in the lower back. And then you want to find a nice smooth place for the block under your head. You don't want to feel like you're sort of falling off of it, so you want it to be in a good spot. And then your neck has a little bit of space so that your neck can also soften down. Legs can be nice and long, or if you want to keep your feet on the floor, that's also okay. As long as your arms have a little softness to them, it doesn't matter if the hands are on the torso or if you prefer arms out to the side. Let's take a breath in and a nice long full breath out. Again, breathe in and breathe out. We want to give ourselves some time in this pose to really allow our body to drop into it, to be held by it. And as we do that, more of that compression from the back helps crack open the front. full breath out. We're gonna come to our back. We're gonna actually come out of the posture a little differently. You can bring your feet to the floor, and you're gonna roll off the blocks to one side, support yourself by that bottom arm, and just lay on your side for a moment. Now, before you roll back, right, onto the mat, just move your blocks out of the way. We actually don't need our blocks for this next pose, so you can just move them to the side. And when you come onto your back, bring your feet to the floor so the knees are lifted, the hips are nice and supported. Good. So as we come into our next pose, it's a happy baby pose. And if you have a strap, that's great. If you don't have a strap, you definitely don't need it. There's other things we can do if grabbing the feet is a little too intense. So the full traditional version would be taking your arms inside the legs, hands wrapped to the outer edges of the feet, and that's your happy baby. This can be a little bit intense for several minutes, especially if your arms and shoulders are really reaching. So if you need a slightly softer grip, you could wrap your forearms underneath the knee creases, maybe hold opposite wrists or hold onto your fingers, and still allow the knees to come towards the armpits. Or if that's still too deep, you can wrap your arms around the shins, still hold on to your hands, but again, keep the legs separated so that you're not really hugging them into your chest, but rather you're hugging them out towards the sides. All three options will give you a really good amount of stretch and tension in the back of your legs. So pick the one that works for you, and if at any point throughout the posture, it's not the right modification, feel free to try one of the others, or just shift a little bit so that you can maintain the work even if the pose looks a little bit different. Take a breath in. Use the breath out to pull your knees a little closer. Again, breathing in, and we want to use that exhale, use that space, right, to really create the full amount of tension that you're looking for. Again, we'll be here for a few minutes. It's going to feel waves of intensity come in and out because of the tension in the posture and even the compression of your hips into the torso. So try to breathe, try to keep the face nice and relaxed. Wherever your arms and grip are, start to release them and let your feet come down. This will feel quite stiff, but it's normal. And we're just going to stay still for a moment. If you really need it, windshield wiper your knees side to side, or let your legs go nice and long on the mat. Since we're already down on our back, we're going to do another pose on the floor, but this time we're actually going to flip over onto our belly. And the only prop you might need would be a blanket or a block for your forehead, but other than that, you don't need anything. And you can rest here for a moment. If you'd like to put your hands underneath the forehead and lay yourself down, you can. We're going to work on our shoulders a little bit, and instead of stretching them behind us, we're going to actually be working the shoulder away from the center of the back. So we're going to take the left arm and thread it underneath the right side of your body. Now, if your head doesn't come to the floor, that's when we want to grab the blanket or the block, because we definitely want our head on something. Now, the more you allow yourself to roll onto this left extended arm, the deeper the stretch and compression will be. But it's going to depend on your specific body and what's going on in your shoulder. So some of you are going to be more open, others will be more closed off. It really depends on how it feels. You could be on your cheek or on your forehead as well. Your right arm could be extended if that feels nice. You could do a half bind, or you could just leave it right next to the side of your body. Take your legs a little bit wide, just so that you have a wider base. And try not to open up on the right side too much, but continue to allow your body to press down. You might feel some pins and needles, a little bit of numbness, maybe even a cold sensation. This is all very safe. It's just kind of annoying, but know that that's from the compression. It's totally normal, and if you need to move your fingers a little bit, you can. Take a breath in and a full breath out. Keep using that exhale. Drop your weight down. Don't be shy. Don't pull yourself away. Instead, really let yourself go with gravity towards the floor. breath in and the breath out. And we're going to take our right hand, place it by the shoulder, press yourself open enough to slide your left arm out, and just come into a comfortable position laying down. Doesn't matter where your arms are. So when you set up for the other side, try to take a similar modification as the first side. You might need something different if this part of your body, this side of the shoulder, feels different from an injury or from some other built up tension that you have. So just move into it the same way. But then again, remember that on the other side, you actively tried to put your weight down. So even when it's a little bit uncomfortable, try not to shy away from the sensation, but find a good spot where you can maintain the pose and breathe through it. Keep using the exhale to go with gravity, to heavy yourself out. full breath in and a full breath out. Take your left hand by your shoulder. Make some space to unlock the right arm and just come to lay down. You can stay here for a few breaths. There's no rush. Our next pose will be a seated pose though. So when you're ready, you can press yourself up to hands and knees and then onto your seat. Okay. We're going to take our legs nice and wide and we're going to come into a seated fold. So if you'd like to sit up on a blanket, blankets are really great when we're doing these seated folds because they give our hips a little bit of height. That way our legs can drop and we can actually hinge forward more. It's not really cheating, but it's preventing this rounding that we all tend to do unnecessarily. When your legs are wide, you have an option of how you'd like to use your props. A bolster, a blanket, block, a mix of all three. The blocks are great because there's so many different height settings and we can really find one that supports us. And if you feel like just having the legs really wide is good work today, you don't have to fold forward, you can just stay exactly where you are. So let's start to find the fold, if there is a fold today. You can move into it very slowly, there's no rush, really see what the body's saying and feeling. And as you move into it, you'll decide if the props that you're using, you need to modify them to a higher or right? The blocks are really, really great for that. You can always also put them on top of a bolster or a blanket on top of them for your forehead. Take a breath in and a full breath out. to deepen your breath. And if you need your arms, begin to walk them back to support you as you come on up. You can place your hands underneath your knees, help them bend, and come back to center. Good, and we'll sit still for just a moment, let that all settle as everything comes back in towards the middle line. When you feel ready, we're going to come onto our back. And you'll bring the feet to the floor so your knees are nice and lifted. Good. So we're going to come into a modified type of twist. It's going to be a little bit more in the low body rather than a twist in the abdomen. So with your feet on the floor, about hips distance wide, you're just going to drop your knees over to the right side to start. When you do that, you can take your bottom foot, which would be your right foot, and hook it on top of your left knee for a little extra pulling. So now instead of getting this deep twist, we're getting more of like this kind of deep stretch and opening that's creating a little bit of a twist as well, but it's not starting as a twist. You can put a block under that knee if it would be more comfortable for it to be supported by something, or you can just let it hang. You can also walk your left foot away from you a little bit if that would help, create a little bit more of that opening. And if this is uncomfortable, you can always just keep both feet on the floor and let the knees roll to one side. But this is a nice way to just really help pull that hip away from your rib cage to create some extra space. Arms can be anywhere that you'd like them to be, whether it's out in a T or potentially underneath your head. You want the pressure? Or you want it under your knee? Does it feel okay like this?
Is there anything at the top?
Oh, feel wants to slip. I would push it more that way then. This foot, sorry. If you can. And then here, try this. Okay, good. Yeah, so arms can really be anywhere you want. That would feel nice and expansive. you have your top foot hooked, just slowly unhook it, bring it back, and then let both knees come back up through center. Try to straighten out your hips if they did move at all. And then again, while keeping your hips in the center, keeping your feet about hips distance apart, drop your knees to the other side. And then if you'd like, do the same thing. You're going to hook that bottom foot, on the top knee. And you can find a good position with a prop if you need it. If not, that's okay. Really just helping pull this hip away from the rib cage, staying nice and open. And maybe there's a slight twist in the low abdomen, but it's mostly about this kind of spaciousness that's happening through the hook of the foot. And we'll be here for just a few minutes. let's start to unhook that top foot. Bring it to the floor. Bring both legs back up in neutral. And we're going to work our way into Shavasana. So if you'd like to stretch your limbs at all, pull your knees to your chest. Any final movement. And what props would you like for Shavasana? Covering you? And then make sure to use your props in a way that will feel really good and support this final pose, whether it's something under the legs, under the head, or over the body for a little pressure or for covering. You're welcome. Whether you're covered fully or just a little bit, any sort of pressure or weight is really good for your nervous system. Take a nice long breath in and a long breath out. Let yourself settle into the floor even more. Integrate all the work so that it starts to really live within you. a full breath out. Keep deepening the breath, even as you start to take small movements in your physical body. So this way the movements and the breath match up. Your next big movement should be your feet to the floor, if they're not already there. And then just rolling gently to one side before pressing yourself all the way up to sit. Take a breath in, full breath out. Next breath in, bring your hands to your heart. And again, exhale fully. Let's finish our practice today with the sound of Om. Breathe in. Om. Thank you for practicing with me. Namaste. And thank you.